you start your day? You set your tone. You're the master of either a good day or a bad one. You're the master of a terrific week or that of a terrible one. It's all in your mindset. Do you start your day off positively or do you start it off in a dreadful tone? I've shared this personal story several times, how I used to wake up when I worked in an industry that made me extremely unhappy. Every single morning I'd say to myself that I was stuck. Instead of being blessed to see another day, my mind was set to hopeless. Are you setting a positive tone for each day? How are you setting the tone for your life in general? This is a time where you can think positively. Everything is in your mindset. Right now, I have a wonderful 7-day motivational entitled the Go Love Yourself Daily Crown Jewels, the 7-day motivational. Head over to www.geauxqueen.com and download your free copy of the 7-day motivational map. You can also go to www.geauxqueen.com and download the full color PDF 7-day motivational guide. This guide is also available on Amazon.com. So go ahead, change your mindset, and remember, every single day you can go love yourself and have a winner's mindset. Go Queen! Hey, it's your girl Geaux Queen with the Q Chat podcast. Thank you for tuning in to our latest episode. Before we get started, I want to give you some information on how you can grab some Q Chat merchandise. Go to www.geauxqueen.com and there you can purchase any Q Chat merchandise or any of my Go Love Yourself tees. So go ahead, take a look at the website and feel free to grab some merchandise today. There's something else I want to fill you guys in on. If you haven't heard, Anchor is the hottest and easiest way to make a podcast. It's the best price in the world, free. So go ahead and download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. And just remember, Anchor distributes your podcast to all streaming platforms. It's super simple. So go ahead and sit back and get ready to listen to the next episode of the Q Chat. But don't forget, go to www.geauxqueen.com and grab some merchandise. Thank you for tuning in and get ready to listen in. Go Queen! Welcome to the Geaux Queen podcast, the Q Chat. Hey, thank you for joining the Q Chat. I'm really excited about this one. So, of course, everyone that's been listening, this celebrates the 1-year anniversary of the Q Chat. I'm really amazed. I never thought when I started this last August that this would pick up the way it has. But to celebrate the 1-year anniversary, as you guys know, I re-released a few episodes that I thought were really pertinent. But now here's a new one, and we're going to flip the script a little bit. So everyone has listened to the Queen talk. So this is going to be a little different. So my podcast partner in crime, she's actually going to be, let's say she's going to be the host of this one. So she's actually going to ask me the questions and I'm super excited. And she's the perfect person for this episode because, as I always refer to her, Miss Courtney Mpagi, she is my gracious podcast partner in crime. She's stuck by me and recorded so many episodes with me. So she's definitely the honorary co-host of the Q Chat. So I'm going to give her the floor. So everyone put your listening ears on. This is going to be a fun one. Hey, Courtney, how are you doing?
I am doing well and doing blessed, and I'm honored to be in this seat. I kind of feel like Oprah and Gail, and you and I have had our connection to them.
Yes.
But there have been times when, Oprah needed someone to, do this for her. It was Gail. So I am, honorary Gail today. And I wear the crown, with grace. So I want to start by kind of going back to the beginning. I think
Okay.
everything that we do is a journey, and it
Yes.
all starts with, kind of getting in the car and starting it up. So take us back to the first Q chat. Like, let's say it's 2 hours before you are going
Mm-hmm.
to press that button. What's going through your mind? What does it feel like? What are you thinking?
Well, the very first one, which you guys, unfortunately, I did unpublish it and I actually deleted it. Which I kind of wish I hadn't deleted it, but at the time I didn't realize I could just, save it. But the very first one was it was about relationships and it was with one of my friends and it was the recording itself as far as the audio wasn't the greatest, but before we started, I was really nervous. As far as me starting the Q chat, I started the Geaux Queen brand in March of 2019, and I figured, hey, the podcast would be a great extension for people to know what the empowerment message is all about. It's a good way for me to connect with people. So, the first one, to be honest, it took me a while to even think, like, okay, now that I have the idea, what am I going to talk about? Like
Mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm.
really didn't have it as streamlined as it is now. I think now if someone thinks about the Q chat, they know, okay, she talks about empowerment and entrepreneurship, things like that, following your dreams. But at the time, I was just kind of like really winging it, ripping off a band-aid and just getting on there to start talking, without it being very mapped out. So for the first one, honestly, I just was winging it like completely. I would say I winged it for months, all
Wow.
of 2019, because it was kind of like me just throwing things together because I wasn't consistent. I wasn't recording them every week. Like now I dish out episodes every single week. But back then it was
Mm-hmm.
totally different. I couldn't find people, it just wasn't the same. But one thing I will say, which I kind of wish I had first, was only because I feel like I still rounded out the ending. So I kind of feel like that maybe been like the little mustard seed that was sitting there, like to kind of push me to get it more polished. I still rounded it out as far as, hey, whatever season you're in, make sure you love yourself. So that actually sparked in the very first episode. So I can pat myself on the back for that. But as far as what I was thinking, I just didn't know what I was doing. I'll be 100% honest. I had no plan, no outline, nothing. I really didn't even know where I thought the show was gonna go, honestly. And that's 100% transparent.
Well, and I think that sometimes you got to just start. You and I have talked about that before. Like, just jump in the water, you will swim.
Right.
Because you won't let yourself drown. And I think you probably have learned so much more doing that than kind of sitting back and waiting for it to be perfect.
Right.
Now it sounds like you were building a brand and a podcast at the same time. What were some of the challenges with marrying both for you?
I think one of the challenges, so you're right. So I started Go Queen March of 2019. KeyChat started August, so a few months later. I think with marrying the two, I guess was what I wanted to share. And then I guess I kind of had that, you have like the angel on one shoulder and a little negative one on the other one, like, oh, you better not say that,
Mm-hmm.
like, are you sure you want to share that? And I'm the type of person I always say, like, I've never met a stranger. I mean, if I'm at the checkout line, I'm the person like before I've left the store, I have 3 kids, you know, I do XYZ. I'm from New Orleans, I mean, I'm an open person.
Mm-hmm.
So initially when I first started it, I was like, well, maybe I shouldn't share some of these things because on the flip side, maybe it will hurt the brand of what I'm trying to do. But then, and it didn't take me long to get that thought out of my mind. I'm like, no, actually, I feel like this will build stronger what I'm trying to do.
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, no one wants to admit this. No one wants to hear someone positive 24/7. I'm just being honest. And that's from an empowerment person. That's my whole self branding career. It is on positivity empowerment. But on the flip side, I feel like this. Have you ever had like a really pious person that tries to kind of like throw a bunch of things on you, but they never tell you how they got to that stage in their life?
Mm,
So that's me. As far as the Q chat, I felt like in order to to marry me, saying, basically regurgitating almost all day, go love yourself, and telling people, go queen, you're a privilege, a prize in a package. I have to let people know how I got to this. Like, I didn't want to just come out like I was farting glitter all day, you know? So
right.
so on the flip side, I'm like, this is, the challenge initially, like I said, was like, okay, well, maybe you shouldn't say this. But then once I got over that initial, I don't want to say anxiety over it, but just, I did second guess at first. Oh, maybe this isn't a good idea for you to say all of this. What if people think, oh, this is too much? But then I'm like, well, and I've said in some past episodes, whoever doesn't receive that portion, that's not my audience anyway. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I'm going to be transparent, and whoever receives it, great. Whoever doesn't, there's great buttons called unfollow, block, like
Leave
remove.
recording.
Right, you can do it all. Unsubscribe, like there's so many things you can do. If I say anything that's too much, you can stage door left, you can leave. And I got that monkey off my shoulder fairly quickly, because I feel like,
Sure.
and that's with anyone, and that's the people that's been on my show. I've had some people say some extremely transparent, poignant stories, and all the time I'm like, whoever doesn't receive that, that's not the audience anyway. So
Mm-hmm.
my challenge was just figuring out what I wanted to pour into the audience, and what audience I really wanted actually to with
Mm-hmm.
the show. And after a while, it took me to realize, okay, I want the audience of people who, yeah, every day isn't a good day. My career sucks sometimes, or, I'm struggling with trying to figure out how to, accomplish my dream, like me and you talk about a lot on the show. So that was my audience. So once I figured out my audience, that's when I was able to overcome, the challenges. And that helped me be more transparent too. Because even with the Q chat, I feel like it helps people who are listening to achieve some level of healing, but it also helps me as well, because
Mm.
I'm comfortable in sharing certain things I've experienced, which I may not have been as comfortable maybe last year or the year before, but the
Sure.
more and more I work on the show, and I feel like it is growing by the episode, so I
Mm-hmm.
feel more and more comfortable. And that was just my main challenge initially, like, do you really want to say this stuff? So I would definitely say that was my main challenge at first.
Now, and you kind of led into my next question. I know you said that the show is about empowerment to your audience, kind of teaching them through your podcast how to love themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
But over this experience, what have you learned about yourself, from the guests to the topics to even finding the audacity to do it? What have you learned about Shronda?
I learned that as far as Shronda, I know that I feel like I have a gift in speaking with people. I jokingly used to call myself Tammy Talk a lot, so I feel like with the Q chat, I feel like I grew just as far as my skills. And I was mentioning to someone in the past how sometimes things that we're good at, we don't realize is actually a gift. Not everyone's
Mm-hmm.
good at
Mm-hmm.
speaking to people, not everyone's good at written messages. Not everyone's good. Not everyone has a talent in creating certain things. And I feel like I learned as far as myself that I can take the creativity that I've always had since a child and actually grow it into something that, isn't just in vain. Like, it can actually serve and help at the same time, So it's not like, and I do feel my podcast is slightly different, like me and you, like we do the occasional on the go where we talk about current events. And I feel like even in those, like we throw in some, intellectual things in it. But
Mm-hmm.
I with the Q chat, like when I did the King series and I had the black male therapist, I really try to be thorough to the point where I'm not just getting on a mic and talking. I'm trying to actually serve the listener, so that when they listen, it's like, okay, wow, like I thought about this, or this helped me. So as far as what I learned about myself is, I learned that I do have a gift, and I'm going to be proud of it and just take it and see where I can go with it and
Mm-hmm.
just build this brand with it. I mean, initially I never thought twice about t-shirts, number one, until last year. Like I mean, I used to work at an office setting 9 to 5. It's not like I was wearing t-shirts, but
Sure.
Geaux
Mm-hmm.
Queen privilege prize package, it literally was like a light bulb moment. Like, I'm going to put that on a shirt. And then once I started saying it so much every day, and the whole go love yourself, when that came about, then I thought, okay, I'm going to do the Q chat. I just feel like I learned more about what I could do, like I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
like I really could take something and create it and build on it. Not that I think I'm a shabby person, but I honestly would have never thought 2 or 3 years from now, if someone said, oh, in a few years, you're going to create this new thing and meet all these phenomenal people. And I'd have been like, yeah, okay. Like, I just wouldn't have put too much thought into it. And I'm really, really, really proud of where this has gone. And I've really looked at things differently, and I know as far as what I feel like I can give to people, because I feel like if I just had this show and we just talked about WAP and whatever the hell else is going on in this world right now that's insignificant, like if I was just doing that all day, it wouldn't be enough for me. So
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like right now I learned that I can use my gifts, like I can really take it to a different platform. And that's one thing I learned about myself, even with my creativity. I never fall into a writer's block with this show. Like, I always think of a new idea. So, thank God for that. Like, I hope I never get to, hope I didn't jinx myself, but I've never
Right.
even gotten to a block where I'm like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to record about next week, or I don't know what I'm going to blog about. Like, those ideas are all there, so I learned that I really can use on my different talents. When I was in high school, I used to have troubles trying to decide what I wanted to major in college, because I knew how to
Mm.
draw, I knew how to write. My mom wanted me to go to college for art because she's like, you draw really well. I wanted to go to college for English because I wrote really well. I also knew how to do hair really well. So it was just like I was in a situation where I'm like, I didn't know what to choose because I had so many things that I really had a gift for. So I learned that I really can grab each element that I have a gift for, instead of feeling overwhelmed, like, oh, I don't know where to start. I just kind of feel like I learned that I can do anything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, I want to shift gears for a moment because you talk a lot about and incorporate New Orleans into just about, everything. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious as to how does New Orleans or the backdrop of New Orleans play a part in the Q chat? What if someone were to hear Q chat and hear New Orleans, what's the relationship?
Well, I'm 504 for life. Okay. Like, no matter where I may leave in, the rest of my life frame, I'm forever 504. Grew up off of Chapatulas in Nashville. Okay. So New Orleans is a part of me, so it's like I feel like no matter where I may go in life, I can't, like, I can never not acknowledge my city. Me and you have
Mm-hmm.
discussed that, not naming names about certain people that have blown up and they don't acknowledge the city. Like, that boggles my mind. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
can't, I cannot not give New Orleans any props. Like, it's a part of me. I lived in New Orleans for 30 plus years, and despite what people who aren't from the city may think about New Orleans, as far as some people I feel have like a negative perception of the city,
Sure. Mm-hmm.
and it offends me. Okay.
Right, right, absolutely.
So that's another thing that kind of drives me to represent my city, because I'm like, number one, we're not all, these you think. I mean, one time I read a few weeks ago, people were making comments. I can't remember what the story was about, but it has something to do with New Orleans, and someone referred to New Orleans as a slum, and I'm like, what? Like, New Orleans is one of the most beautiful cities actually in the world, and I just feel like whatever creativity, whatever thing I do creatively, in the future will forever be a love letter to New Orleans. Just like Issa Rae, who, my mentor, my virtual mentor,
Right.
you know, she loves her city in California. She loves Los Angeles. She talks about those cities that she's from. And, when you watch Insecure, it's like a love letter to the cities that she loves. And same thing, like, I feel like I'm obligated to represent New Orleans. And I've always felt like, because I used to also meet a lot of people and they would be like, well, where are you from? And I'd be like, well, I'm from New Orleans. And they'd be like, well, you don't sound like it. That alone drives me, because it's like, well,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think the average person from New Orleans speaks like?
Right.
So it's important to me to just show that there's so much creativity out of that city. And we're not all what you think. We're not
Mm,
all gold toothed out and just all
please.
over the place. And I'm not knocking that, but I'm just saying that's
I'm about to
not
say,
all
shout
that
out to
is.
Master P now.
Right, right. So I can't knock people who, that's their thing, but that's not who we all are.
Mhm.
So I'm going to forever represent New Orleans. If I ever win an Academy Award from years from now from a screenplay, I'm going to thank my city. Like, that's just a part of me. So whatever I do in the future creatively, which I have other things in my mind, like New Orleans will always be the backdrop of every single thing I do. Because, like I said, I love that city, and it is a part of me, the good and the bad. Like, it's just a beautiful city, and I just feel like somebody needs to represent it. And I'm real territorial about New Orleans. I feel like if you grew up in that city and you've been blessed to get to a particular level, you owe it to give props to your hometown.
Sure.
I just feel like that's the least a person could do, is to acknowledge their hometown. Whether even if they had a bad upbringing, like, it's still a party. So I don't know. I can't see myself not ever, giving New Orleans its props. That's why
Sure.
everything is Geaux Queen, GEAUX. Like, you never see GO in anything I do. Like, I have to throw in something, you know, to let
Mm-hmm.
you know where I'm from. Like, I'm gonna put on for my city forever. So that's my whole thing about New Orleans. I love that city so much.
And I think to a certain extent, if you can't capture your home, you're probably not going to capture, anywhere else. So
Right.
even with the people who have left and maybe seemingly forgot or kind of turned their back, they started here first. They can't take
Hmm.
that away from their legacy in any way. I know who was throwing parties at Gertown Pool, as a CD release. Like, don't start. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So,
Right. And it's also
so
a part of your humility too, when keep that tie to your hometown. So I don't care, like, wherever I may go in the future. Like, I could never just turn my back on New Orleans. Like, that would just never happen.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now let me ask you this, and I'm gonna make it harder for you. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Besides Issa Rae, tell me some of your most wanted guests and why.
Ooh. Oh my God. Besides Issa Rae. Yeah, that is a hard one, because I mean, when I say Issa
I
Rae, it's
already
like,
know.
she's my hero. So, if they ever bring back that show Fanatic, if someone ever wants to do something nice to me, just, if I can meet her for just 5 minutes,
Just
but
5 minutes of the time.
right. Other than Issa Rae, oh my God, I have to think for a second. Maybe Ava DuVernay, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
And she actually has Louisiana roots too. I mean, honestly, I think I would think maybe her, because she's extremely creative. I love just people who, I feel like her works are they're non-traditional. They're not just the typical screenplay or whatever. So I guess maybe her. I guess I would have to give props to, sisters, just going out there and making their own way. So I guess I would say her, but of course Eats was my number one. So
You threw it in there. You threw it in there.
I had to.
Disqualification.
I definitely had to. And you definitely stumped me, because I'm like, who other than Issa Rae? I'm like, well, of course Barack, absolutely love him.
Oh
But if you
yeah.
want to
Oh
stick
yeah.
with the
Yeah. Yeah.
Queen thing, Barack and Michelle, I love Barack Obama. If I had to choose between Mina and Barack or Michelle, I actually would probably pick Barack, actually. And I love
Mm.
Michelle Obama, but like Barack Obama, like, when I say I love Barack Obama, you know,
Girl, who?
you know,
Girl.
like I love Barack Obama. Like, you know, and the sad part is if I ever met him, I probably wouldn't even be able to get out a sentence because
I
I'd
know,
probably be
right? Look,
sobbing.
I got a pot of beans for that brother whenever he comes around. I got a
I would
pot of
be
red beans
sobbing
for him.
uncontrollably. Like I know I would probably be sobbing uncontrollably where he'd probably be like, okay.
Let's go on and get her
Right.
some
I don't
water
think
and
I
sit
would
her
get a
down.
word out, you know,
You know, another
but
good one might be too, speaking of Obama, Sasha Malia,
I do
queens
love
on the
the
come
daughters.
up, you know.
Definitely, definitely. And I think they represent a lot. So I would
Hmm.
say, other than Issa, I would definitely
Oh, Lord.
actually throw I would actually
Now,
throw in
you
there
say you're going
Obama
to
more
cry
than
over
Issa.
Barack, but I think Issa might lay you out if she actually walked in the room.
Well, here's my perfect Issa setup. I've already played it out in my mind. So when I do meet her, I feel like it's going to be a situation where, you know, someone has spoken to the gods and they've like arranged an appointment. So I have some time to prepare, you know, and just, you know, cry it out for a few days before I actually get in the same room with her. You know, like, so that's how I played it out in my mind. When I do meet her, it's going to be something that's very, you know, okay, like we hooked it up. You get to talk to her Thursday at 6, you know, something like that. So that's how I played it out in my mind. So unfortunately, if I meet her impromptu, yeah, that's probably when I'm gonna make a fool of myself because I probably won't know what to say.
Yes, indeed. Shout out Issa Rae. Now, let me ask you this. We talked about the journey, so we kind of talked about the beginning. Let's journey to the middle of this thing. Did it ever
Okay.
get hard? Did it ever get, I don't want to do this no more? Did it ever get, oh Lord, I'm recording again? Bring us to that, because there's that honeymoon phase. It's like, ooh, I got a podcast. And then
Right.
there's the other side of that coin. Bring that about for us in the audience.
Well, definitely when I first started the Q chat, so like the first episode aired, I want to say, I know I recorded it on like August the 21st, released it on the 22nd. And between August and January of 2020, I think I only recorded like maybe 4 episodes. You
Mm,
know, was this one I
mhm.
think is the 40th that we're recording actually. And I mean, I know like when I first started doing it, I'm just like, okay, you know, like I couldn't find the time, and then I was having a hard time scheduling people. It just, you know, was kind of all over the place. And like, you know, as you know, I was recording on a different platform. I had no clue how to even stream it. Okay. Everyone
Mhm,
would be like,
mhm.
I'd be like, oh, can you please listen to my podcast? Well, is it on Apple? And I'm like, no, I don't know how to get it on Apple. Okay. You know, and be like, well, then a lot of people would be like, well, I have to download it. I can't figure out how to do that. Like, can you just tell me when it's on Google or, and I'd be like, oh my God, you know, and I'm like, I'm just, you know, I was at the point where I'm like, okay, I'm just going to record this and whoever don't listen to it, fine. You know, cause I'm like, you know, it was just getting listeners. I got to that point where I'm just like, I'm just going to record and just not overthink this anymore because I was getting frustrated. I didn't know how to even edit the podcast, what I was previously using. And it was a lot. Okay. Just trying to get it to a particular level. And then once I finally switched platforms, and that's a shout out to Marlon DeFilo the third. Like we were just chatting one day and he actually inboxed me and he noticed that he said, you know, he noticed that I had a lot of engagement on my IG. And I was just like, you know, I try to engage with people. So we were chit chatting and we started talking about different platforms. And I feel like once I switched the platform, I got out of that frustration stage. But
Mm, mhm.
there definitely was a period where I was just like, this is kind of weird that I'm doing this podcast because I didn't know how to promote it. B, I didn't even know how to stream it on different listening platforms. And it was just like, okay, I'm just talking just to talk at this point because
Mm,
it just felt like
mhm.
it was really great value ish, you know. Like, it was fruit hoops, you know. It
No,
was
uh-uh.
right. It was, you know, it was like that. You know, just really, it was just like another podcast at that point. I just really was like all over the place. I just didn't know how to get it to a particular level. So I definitely went through that period. I never got to the point where I was going to stop doing it, but I was having a period where it was kind of like rough getting it together. And I definitely was not at the stage where I am now, where I literally have content every week. I was nowhere
Mm-hmm.
near that
Mm-hmm.
spot, period. And it would be to the point where it was kind of frustrating getting it going, so it was a little cloudy period where it was just like, okay, I can't even figure out how to do this, like, and it was kind of driving me nuts at one point. I'm glad I'm not at that stage anymore, but yeah, I definitely had a period where it was just like, okay, this podcast is just not where I want it to be, just even
Right.
something as minor as the audio. It wasn't. Definitely, I feel like if you listen to the episodes, it's just, I feel like it even sounds different now. um
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so I definitely went through some growing pains. Let's put it that way.
Sure. All right. So tell us about some of your favorite moments on the show. What's some of the moments and or guests that you hope to never forget, and that if your audience doesn't take anything else away, they know those moments as well?
I definitely love our on the goes. Like I've always said, I'm so blessed that you and I connected, and that number one, that you are always gracious to be on the show, because God knows I'm always in your inbox. Oh, do you have time to record? you know, you know, that's a regular thing. I love the on the goes, because I felt like it was something that could be separate from, us talking about empowerment and all these things. Okay, here's where we can ask about current events, but give some intellectual opinion. So I do love those. The other guests who I definitely love, Maisha Proctor was amazing. I love Go Sparkle. That's like one of my favorite episodes too, because it really is an episode where you can listen to it, and I just feel like you would have to smile at some points of that episode, and that's why I
Mm-hmm.
named it
Mm-hmm.
Sparkle, because I'm like, because she
Mm-hmm.
does label herself as a sequin unicorn, and I just feel like it's just a happy
Yes.
go lucky episode. If you need a pick me up, definitely listen to that one. When I did the King series, William Poole, I feel like, was one of the most transparent episodes, and it was a lot of
Mm-hmm.
content to the point I'm like, okay, I'm going to let him go with it, and I'm just going to break it up into episodes, because I felt like his journey was extremely important. And also, I felt like it was important because obviously the Q chat, this queens, but I just felt like it was important that I have that dedication to the men that month. And one thing about my podcast, I don't discuss anything divisive. If you notice, like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't have any episodes where it's like, oh, men, this men, you will never actually hear that on my show, period. Like, that's just not me. And I'm not saying, I definitely have not dated a bunch of Michael B. Jordans, a bunch of fabulous men. I really haven't. But I will not I will not throw any negativity towards men on my show, period. I just that's it's
Mm-hmm.
just that's another maturity level which I'm not on. Like, I'm not going to say anything negative about them. So that was important for me too, that month, that I dedicated to them, and it was very sincere. And he was an excellent guest. Trying to think, like I said, I love all the episodes, as you know, but as far as the ones that I would say stand out, those come to mind in particular. Like I said, I love the on the goes a lot. Because especially when we did the first one, it was when Kobe had died, so it was like we have to say something. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was like it it was necessary. Like, we have to say something. And I love how we waited until the end of the episode to address it.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually, as far as the episodes too, if we talked about what is some of the particular episodes, I actually really, really, really love the cancel culture one that we did.
Yes. Oh my God, yes.
It was one of the best ones in my opinion, because, and it's like, when a mother has a kids, you don't technically have a favorite, but it's just like, that one stood out to me because I felt like, first of all, as you know, like, we always, me and you will begat another episode as we're talking. And that one in particular, we had been wanting to do it. And I just felt like it was necessary. And I was really on that whole Oprah thing. It was really agitating me. Okay. Like, and I was
Mm-hmm.
getting really
Mm-hmm.
tired of everybody like, well, we hate Oprah. I'm like, you know what? Hold up.
And
Like,
where's the we? Talk, speak for yourself.
yeah, I was just like, I'm this, and like y'all not gonna take away me watching Oprah in the '80s as a kid when I didn't see any other Black women on television. So I'm like, we're
Hello.
not going there. So that's one of the episodes that really stands out a lot for me. Actually, is the cancel culture one. Like I really, really, really love that episode.
And I think that you have a very wide variety of subject matter too. So, like you said, it isn't all we bashing men on the Q chat, or
Right, right.
that. I mean, from mental health to on the go with the hot topics to cancel culture and what you've always branded as unpopular opinion type of.
Right.
I think the variety is there. So, how do you come up with the subject matter? How do you say, this is what I'm going to talk about, and this is what I'm going to bring to people?
Well, two things I want to say. So the first thing, barreling back to what I said about like I don't say it's not about male bashing. One reason why it was important for me for that to be known that it's not a male bashing show is because it is the Q chat, so the guests are primarily women. Um, but still in all, like that's just something we don't do. Like we just
Mm-hmm.
don't. That's just not my thing. And I've actually had sometimes people will tag me on like nonsense where it's like divisive stuff, and I don't even bother to comment because it's just like I don't do that, So it's
Right.
like you will never out. I can say right now, you're never going to have an episode of the Q Chat where I'm going to be saying a bunch of negative things about men in general. Like it's just not going to happen. So that alone is just one thing I will say. As far as how I come up with the topics, that also kind of lies into, like I said, just me utilizing my gifts. I really don't sit there, with this huge notepad and pen and, map out all these different topics. It just comes naturally, and some of it naturally comes with the networking too. So like for
Mm-hmm.
example, when I
Mm-hmm.
had the Black male therapist, I came across his page and I'm like, hey, and slid in his DM. I'm like, it would be really great, if we had this episode. And then of course if they can hear, from a Black male therapist, because that's just something we don't hear from that often. We really don't hear from that
It's really
perspective.
not normalized.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And he was
Mm-hmm.
like, cool. And we recorded that evening, like,
Wow.
yeah, he didn't even hesitate. So a lot of it, as far as the topics, it just comes from me just having the heart of what I feel like our culture needs to hear. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like and I try to remove stigmas as well. Okay. So yeah, we talk about anxiety a lot in mental health because in my heart, that the stigma surrounding that needs to be removed. We talk about
Mm-hmm.
following dreams because I know like a lot of people, I'll talk to a lot of people and they complain and complain about their jobs, and I'm like, why are you still there? Like it's like, so we talk
Right.
about that because I feel like some people need to hear that. We talk about empowerment a lot because a lot of people really don't value themselves, and
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like it's a minor thing, but some people really look in the mirror and they don't see what they truly value.
Mm.
So as far as the topics, it just really comes from my heart, literally. Like, and one thing I was telling someone, it's kind of different when you have like when you're building a brand on empowerment because I'm literally giving a portion of myself, like, you know,
Absolutely.
people who have read the blogs, they're extremely personal. Like I talk about a lot of personal things on the blog, probably more than in the podcast. But it just really comes from my experiences as far as how I think of the topics, and things that I feel like as our community and our culture really needs to be destigmatized. So that's kind of my driving force on a lot of the things that we talk about, things that I just feel that's important. But as far as the topics, I don't really sit back and like have like a whole list of, okay, so next month we're going to talk about this, blah, blah, blah. I mean, obviously for June, I had that completely streamlined because with all the stuff that was going on around, Black Lives Matter and George Floyd, I'm like, okay, that's it. June is for the kings, like with no
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
hesitation. But every topic really just comes from a place in my heart on what I feel like people need to hear, honestly. And it's really not any further than that. It's not even a big, huge process other than, okay, this is what I feel like people really can benefit from and what could serve, our culture.
And it sounds like to me, when you say that, it sounds like it's more spirit led,
Yeah.
which kind of leads me to my next question. How does faith and or spirituality play a part in the Q chat and how you present it, or, even how you present yourself?
I think that definitely, and one thing too about the Q chat, I try to be. I think if someone listens to like maybe the first few episodes, they may have thought, "Oh, well, that's a religious podcast," which I definitely don't hold that label because it's not. But yeah, I feel like talk about a higher power. Like I feel like it comes into the episodes regardless, and I feel like there is something driving me just with what I'm doing, and I feel
Mm-hmm,
like telling
mm-hmm.
people to value themselves. It's a form of love,
Right.
I just feel like I have to throw that in everything I'm saying. And just like you mentioned, if I'm not really putting a lot of thought processes sometimes on, okay, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of the year as far as all the topics. No, it just literally comes to me. So I definitely feel like a lot of things are spirit driven, as I mentioned to you as well. And a lot of guests are on the show. One of the first things I tell them before I hit record is I actually don't have preset questions. The questions come to me as we're
Mm-hmm.
talking. Yeah, if I'm recording something like with Patrick Ladonis, and that's actually another episode I really enjoy because I just love his creativity. Like people like that, yeah, I'm going to research obviously what you're working on, so I have my notes. But as far as the questions, it just comes to me because it is a chat, it's a conversation. So I feel like it is spirit driven because I just feel like it all works together, So it's like the
Mm-hmm.
conversations flow so naturally. You would think that is something sometimes that we may have rehearsed, or like you would think that I had like this big long list of pre-prepared questions. I just don't do that, and I just feel like it all flows naturally. And one thing I will say, even from the first episode, I didn't have an issue though with confidence in talking to people. Like I will say that, like I never have I've never started recording and had a feeling like, well, I'm too scared, I'm too intimidated, I don't know what to say. Like I've never felt that way. So I do feel like that's just spirit driven as far as me utilizing my
Mm-hmm.
talents and also connecting with people and using a level of anointing, I guess, in talking to people. I do feel that it really is a gift. And when you're having a message, I don't take it lightly. I just feel like obviously there's some level of a higher power, spirit driven. So I just feel like
Sure.
just with the messages that we come about, and that people receive. And I get a lot of inboxes after messages. And it's like a great feeling when someone's like, hey, I listened to that episode and it really made me think about this. Or someone messaged me yesterday because I do the daily crown jewels on my brand IG, and someone messaged inboxed me yesterday because I did one yesterday about some of you are struggling because you've been hurt, but you have to let it go because you deserve that peace, you deserve the joy, just something along those lines. And someone inboxed me saying yeah, I think you should have an episode about blah blah blah. And it's just like the fact that she thought to inbox me to connect it. Okay, well, this is something that would be great on a future episode. So I just feel like everything is spirit driven, whether
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
flat out saying it or not. I mean, just the connections I've made. I don't, I feel like there's no coincidence with anything. So there's a power that's linking all these people together. There's a power that's linking the listeners. There's a power that's linking the messages, that,
Absolutely.
it's just, it's not coming out of nowhere.
And it's funny that you went to your inbox because that was my next question.
Okay.
I was going to ask you, here's your time to respond to any message, that's been sent to you, positive or negative. We're not going to assume, either or. But
Hmm.
if there's some messages that you have received that you haven't publicly been able to answer and or address, I want to open the floor for you to be able to do so.
Well, I'm very like socially active. So I do get a lot of messages. I communicate with people a lot on IG or whatever. For the most part, I would say people have been positive. I've had, like, when I say a small amount of people who I felt like they talk a good game on their page, but when it comes to the DM, they may not be exactly, who they present themselves as. But
Mm-hmm.
things like that, I keep it blessed and moving. Like, I don't honestly put much energy into those people because, like, as I always say, like, I have a particular audience. So, like, if you, like, don't rock with me, or if you may be a little salty in a message, it's like, okay, and I just move on. It's just not that serious. As far as the positivity, I feel like I've grown, like, actual consistent people who straight up, I know, like, they're listening to the episode every week. I know that they're joining the IG live series every week, and it's a cool thing. So what I will say to people that have messaged me and who have really joined the Queen community, like, I really truly sincerely appreciate you. And also, too, one thing I actually will say, if someone disagrees, and I always say that, I think I've made that pretty clear, you can disagree with me or Courtney or anyone that's on the show. Like, this is a free speech, so it's like, it won't offend me. It's just, there's a way to approach someone in a nice manner, I guess you could say.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Like, don't come at me in the wrong way. Like, yeah, I'm still from New Orleans. I will take my crown and sit it on the side and take
Hey.
the earrings off. So, like, just don't approach me in a negative way, because I probably won't acknowledge you, period. Or I'll just, like I said, I just politely keep it moving. Like, people that have maybe um approached me in an inbox in a way that I felt was kind of rude or disrespectful, I'm sure they haven't. I'm sure they've noticed. I just don't. I actually don't even unfollow them, but you won't really see me active on anything you post
Mm-hmm.
anymore, because I just keep it moving. It's not that serious, But like I said, the people that have really been positive, I really truly appreciate them, and they really do. They inspire me, actually, to be consistent, and I need motivation too. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
it
Mm-hmm.
motivates me to keep going. And like I said, people are allowed to disagree, but people that disagree are, may have addressed me in a way that I didn't feel was the nicest way. I honestly don't even go back at them. I just move on.
Well, you know what? I think that's very big of you because there are many people that don't do that.
I'm just at a different stage in my life, and I haven't always been. I have not always taken a high road with things like that at
Mm-hmm.
all. I can tell you that right now, but I'm just really conscious of. I try to avoid certain situations at the moment, because I don't like to drain my energy on certain things. Like, literally,
Absolutely.
how, like, sometimes you get really mad at somebody. You ever feel like really drained afterwards? Just
Mm-hmm.
like, so
Mm-hmm.
I just don't bother anymore, because it doesn't serve me. I'm not saying there haven't been moments there I'm just like, I wish I had said so and so, but a lot of the times I'm like, what purpose is it going to serve? And this whole
Sure.
year in general, with COVID and certain things I'm going through personally, I know when to hold them. What's that line, Kenny Rogers? I know when to hold them. I know when to fold
And fold them.
them. you know. So I've really taken that, and I've ran with it this year, because certain things is just truly not worth my energy. I'm not gonna
Sure.
lie. So I've kind of taken that road a lot.
And I think when you become brand minded, you become careful of that too.
Hmm.
In this age of cancel culture and in this age of the super sleuths of Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, you
Right.
sure wouldn't want anybody to go back and you have to explain from 8 or 9 or 5 or 6 years ago why you said this in this way. So I
Right.
think being brand minded kind of lends itself to that too. Because I see that, with myself that I've done when I started thinking about my brand and how, if I want it to be global, what that could possibly mean. I
Right.
have, deleted a lot of messages and backspaced out of a lot
Hmm.
out of a
Right.
lot of messages, just thinking from that aspect.
Right. And that's
So okay,
another
so
thing.
we
I am building a brand, and that's one thing that I think my podcast is slightly different, because it's part of my brand, so it's a little different. So that's why, like, I've even had conversations with some people that have podcasts that, oh, well, it's supposed to be fun, so you don't have to worry about overthinking that. No, I'm gonna worry about how I do this because I get associated with the brand, and I think bigger. Like, I think way outside of Louisiana where I'm at. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I do think about what I say and do very differently than the average person. So because it is a brand, and I'm not compromising what I've worked on so far for
Mm-hmm.
anybody.
For some, for a troll. We call
Correct.
them trolls, right?
Exactly.
So we did the beginning, we did the middle, and I feel like we've kind of, landed the plane here at the end. What's next for the Q chat? Where is it? Where do you want it to go? Where do you see it going? And I think things, like I said, they're journeys, they're not destinations. So
Right.
not necessarily an end, but where does the journey continue from here?
Well, with the Q chat, my goal is just to make it better. I definitely love the fact that with the guests, I feel like the guests are like amazing. Okay, like I have guests on my show that, they're not always locals, they're all over. So
Mm-hmm.
one thing I do see for the Q chat is just building those connections and having the listeners tune in and be like, whoa, how did she get that person? Like, that's really what I kind of, that's what I'm itching for, as far as the next year of the Q chat, year 2 and year 3, is where it's like, oh, wow, she got so and so on that show. Like, that's kind of what I'm itching for. Cause actually, initially, I actually didn't have the thoughts to have that Q&A interview type thing. That's one thing I will say. But that just kind of came about because once the Q chat grew, I actually would get people that would message me and ask me could they be on the show. And I don't, it's rare that I turn people down, even though now I'm being more selective, which that kind of goes
Mm-hmm.
back to some of the negative experiences I just I had.
Sure.
I'm like, I can't say yeah to everybody. But
Right.
I definitely see some names on the show. I'm hoping in the future where it's like, okay, wow, I see you. Like, you got so and so on your show. Okay. Um, and I just want to see it grow. Like, I really, when I sit back, it's like, the mother looks at, her kid once they grow up, like, wow, just looking back from this August to last August, I'm like, whoa, like,
Mm-hmm.
it
Mm-hmm.
grew in that short amount of time. Like I said, last year, 4 episodes. This is the 40th that's going to be published. And that's not saying
Mm-hmm.
I don't have have at least 5, 6, 7 in my library right now that I just haven't released yet. I always
Right.
people I record ahead of time, and I just think that's what works for me. With the style of show that I have with guests and everything, it's better for me to record ahead of time. And like I said, this is brand building, so it's different. I'm very conscious of who's on it. So what I see in the future is just really just taking it to another level. Just
Mm-hmm.
having some guests on there, that I just wouldn't have thought would ever talk to me or
Mm-hmm.
be on the
Mm-hmm.
show, or just doing more things where, we touch people this year. I really want to take it to another level. I love the live IG actually because I get to pull in old guests, and I feel like even with the live IGs, people still receive a message from that too. So I just feel like
And the real time reactions are really cool.
exactly. And I definitely have to thank you for that because I was not feeling lives.
We look, talk about pulling teeth. I extracted that tooth out of you. I
You
said, you
did.
know what?
You definitely did. Because at first I was like, ooh, I don't see how I'm going to like record and do the live. And then it finally dawned on like, okay, I'll just do the live separate. And
Mm-hmm.
it flows and I love it. People actually look for the lives now on Thursdays. So, I just see the Q chat evolving even further. Definitely with the live IG, maybe making that show grow that
Mm-hmm.
bigger than what it is. I could definitely
Mm-hmm.
see that in the future. And like I said, I associate the live. I mean, the live IG is really the Q chat on. It
On
is the
on
Q chat,
IG. Mm-hmm.
right? So there's another chapter of the Q chat. It's another, level of it, having that actual, the show when you see the guests. And, I think we live obviously in the podcast world, obviously, when you're listening to the episodes on the phone at a computer. But I think definitely the lives, you were correct. It's like an added touch, because you get to see the
Mhm.
people and connect with them. And like you said, it's completely off the cuff, no editing, nothing,
Yeah, you just gotta go.
Right. So I definitely see the Q chat also growing as far as that show too. Like I would love to see the show grow to another level as well. That would be absolutely phenomenal. But I definitely see great things for the Q chat. I definitely want obviously, but I'm definitely grateful for the audience I have so far. But I just see it growing, and everyone that's been so supportive, I guess I appreciate it. Keep the positive inboxes coming because it does motivate me as well because I know people are listening. So I just see it growing, and I definitely see the messages, that are being displayed on the show. I just definitely see it just reaching bigger audiences for sure.
Well, you know what? This has been one of my most favorite experiences, actually. We're gonna call this one the Sherelle and Copra edition
I love
of
it.
the future.
This has been amazing. Like I'm like, ooh, I feel special. Like I was actually asked questions. Like it's been great.
And I know, sometimes you flipping the script and seeing things from a different perspective is just, all that you need. And I want to say congratulations on 1 year. I want
Thank
to
you
thank
so
you
much.
for making me a part of the journey. The moment you said it, I thought, yes, that would be perfect. So I don't in any way mind being a podcast partner in crime.
I love it.
I've loved every minute of it. And, I see a great future for you and the Q chat and your Geaux Queen brand as well. Like you said, the Lord don't make no mess. He brings people together for a reason. And,
Right.
I'm eager to keep seeing what that means as we all keep moving forward. So everyone listening, I'm going to take the reins and say this has been another episode of the Q Chat. And if you don't do anything else, go love yourself. Have a
Yes.
great one.
Thank you for listening to the Q Chat podcast. This podcast is sponsored by Queen's Arrogance LLC. Our company website is www.goqueen.com.